Good day, Internet. In the last video, we talked about some good things and some bad things, and overall the vibe was just kind of off. Because, TBH, my vibe was a little off. Things were annoying me, things weren't going exactly to plan, and were costing me a lot of money. But in this video, it's nothing but exciting shit, alright? It's all gonna be cool, exciting, Rotary build progress. So, what we're looking at here is my order that I got from RX7 Specialties in Calgary. I got 3 used irons that have been media blasted. Sorry, my dishwasher's going. Media blasted, lapped, and then CNC ported. So check this out. I wasn't sure if I was gonna do a big street port or a bridge port, and I was planning on just doing a street port because I was gonna be doing the porting entirely myself. But me getting Adam to do these plates for me, to send me these plates, was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it allowed me to pay him some money to do this beautiful CNC port work, especially this bridge. So I was gonna do all my own porting and probably do a large street port, but since I had his help and I really want it to brap and make good power and be naturally aspirated, I got him to do this. I got him to CNC a long bridge and a big ass street port on my secondaries, and on my primaries, so my middle port, or my middle iron that has the primaries on it, is in another room. We're going to look at it in a second, but it is just getting this shape without the eyebrow. So without the bridge. I guess this is technically the bridge. This is why it's called a bridge port, is because the corner seal slides across it while allowing air in. It's kind of an insane thing to do, but we're doing it. It's kind of a proven approach for making more power with these engines. So that is really exciting. Well, by the way, this whole video is going to be talking about porting for the most part, which is kind of an exciting topic, at least it is for me, because it's the modification to the rotary engine that makes it sound sick and make more power. And it's also something that I get to do with my own hands, which just kind of, I don't know, this sort of thing just really gets me going. You modify this in a certain way using your skills, and then it pays you back with more power. More fuel, more air, more braps, right, buddy? Yeah, dude. So we got good irons that are lapped. They're gonna work great. I'm a little bit concerned about some of this pitting on the coolant seal surfaces, like that. That's probably as bad as it gets, like right there. I may do something with some like high temp JB weld or something, I don't know, to try and smooth that over, because I've read that people do that when they get pitted coolant seals. I asked Adam, the guy that sent me these plates, if I should worry about it, and he said no, it's too minor, but I don't know, man. It doesn't take much to create a water leak, and I don't want a water leak. So that's a little annoying. That's probably worse than it was on my original plates, but that's just a side effect of getting these used plates. They're not new, because Mazda doesn't make these anymore, unfortunately. What else did we get? Giles V. Goddamn right. So we got, so remember in the last vid I talked about how I was all bummed out about that housing that was damaged? Well, this is the replacement housing, and again, kind of a blessing in disguise that I got talking with Adam more. Because this is the new one that he sent me, and he was able to, I had to pay him to do this, obviously, but he was able to do there's just a tiny little notch there, and that meets up with this bridge, or with this eyebrow, with this hole, and that allows the air to come in effectively. Otherwise, half of this is covered up. So that little cut allows the Bridgeport to do its Bridgeport thing. So that, I am going to copy that and do the exact same thing by hand on the housing that I already had, because I didn't ship it back to him or anything. So there's that, and also, he ported my exhaust. So that's bigger than stock. It's gonna really scare me to take a rotary tool to a brand new one of these. These are $1,000 and just, it's the sacred surface. Porting is all about removing the sacred surface and removing material in precisely exactly where you need to, and not under any circumstances removing material from any of this flat area. Because, yeah, so you need to remove quite a bit of material. Like a stock port is only like that big. You're removing a lot of metal with the rotary tool, with the die grinder. And if you slip or if you screw up and go you've really just hurt your engine quite a bit. You can probably still run it, but you're probably going to burn a little bit of oil, or something bad's going to happen. You're going to lose compression. It's going to be bad. Also, just for something to talk about, I was kind of surprised to see this still here after getting it lapped, but I guess the reason is that he only laps 0.002, so I guess 2 thou off of the plate, and that retains the factory nitride hardening, I believe. So these are nitrided by Mazda from the factory, and it's a very, very thin treat. It's not a coating, it's a treatment to the steel that makes it harder. It involves nitride gas in some way. Again, talking about things I don't understand. But if you only shave off just a tiny little bit, you can retain some of that, and you don't need to get them renitrided, because getting them renitrided is insanely expensive from what I've read. So we only shave off a certain amount, and the side effect is that this particular area, this is the highest wear location on irons, and it's because your spark plugs are right there. This is where the combustion initially happens, and the rotor, whenever the side seal comes past here, it's not sweeping like it is on most of the plate. It is doing a slicing motion. So it's doing a slicing motion, and there's a very hot explosion happening here. Just there's the most heat and the most pressure. This gets the most worn. And I was a little concerned about it, like, should I be running this? Is that okay? But no, this is pretty normal wear. If we lapped off more of this plate, we wouldn't have the nitride hardening anymore. So this is our happy medium. So this is fine. I read that the tolerance for this, before you shouldn't use the plate anymore, according to Mazda, is 4 thou, and I measured these with feeler gauges, and they're like 1.5 thou, so not worried about it. I was worried about it. I'm not worried about it anymore. So, that's all that stuff. So, remember I said we were going to look at the center plate? Well, here's the center plate. So, this port was done by ya boy. I'm pretty happy with it. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good. There's a little bit of like a divot sort of thing going on up here. I've tried getting rid of it forever, and I'm really scared to accidentally progress that edge. So I'm just going to call that good enough. You should see, well, I'll show you right this second, how rough the inside of the intake channel is from Mazda. It's awful. Let me just get some light on you. I actually started smoothing this out a tiny bit, but it's pretty damn rough in there. And the other part of porting, the other thing that you have to waller out, is these intake runners. So, air and fuel goes through there, and then it makes a 90-degree bend into the combustion chamber. Here you can see the comparison between what the port is stock and what we're bringing the port to. So quite an increase in size, eh? Pretty damn big. So this is what it looked like before I started. I'll flip it over again. And this is what it looks like now. So I'm pretty proud of myself for not accidentally destroying any of the sacred surface. One thing that I started doing, so last video I talked about the Pineapple Racing Street Port template. So turns out I bought this and didn't really use it because Adam, the guy that was doing the work on these, he has, like, every rotary shop has their own proprietary ports. Ports are a very opinionated thing, turns out. So here's the Pineapple Racing ones, and Adam's is actually a little bit bigger. So if I put this, I don't have the dowels in it right now, nor do I care enough to put them in, but the Atom port is actually a fair bit bigger than the Pineapple one. So that means more air, more fuel, more whoop, 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 whoop. So that's what my completed port looks like, including the inner runner here. So this one I haven't really cleaned up that much. I haven't really even started on it yet. For some reason from the factory it kind of tapers in a little bit at the beginning, and we don't want it to do that. We want it to do the big suck. So that's done. That's barely even started. So basically you're just knocking down all of the nasty casting marks on the inside of here and also expanding it to the size of, you know, what actually meets up with the gasket. So the 3 steps, or 3 stages of porting are, you do the scary part, which is actually getting the shape and the correct angle of the port. The next step is you make this all nice and smooth, and the third step, the one that I like the least, is where you have to blend the 2 areas together. And I've only done 2 ports start to finish. I'm only showing you one because the other one was just a test run. This one, first I wanted to prove to myself that I knew what I was doing somewhat. So this is one of the junk plates, and I did this port on it, and it looks extra messy right now because I did it to the Pineapple Racing size, and then I traced the Atom port, which is a little bit bigger, and then I started going towards the Atom port, and then I was just like, you know what, man, I got this. I get the idea. I feel like I'm wasting my time. Let me do it for real. And then I did it for real, and it was fine. So that's kind of it. I want to talk briefly about the tools involved, because depending on where you read or who you ask, they'll tell you need a million different tools or just 2 different tools. This is what I found worked for me so far with my whole 1 port worth of experience. For cutting this stuff out, you need carbide burrs. It's really the only valid option. I got this set from Amazon. This is the Gestuous brand. These were recommended by Project Farm, a fellow that does the reviews on YouTube and compares different products. I am liking these so far. Every time I use them, I put a little bit of bar and chain oil on them to keep them lubricated, because we're going to be removing a lot of material, and I don't feel like these dulling out on me in the middle, if I can avoid it. So I've been starting off with this long cone fella for doing this part. And you very, very slowly and very carefully inch yourself towards the line, the edges of the template. And if you go past that, you've screwed up. Don't go past it, is basically the advice there. So start off with that guy. And for coring out the runners, I liked using this one. I tried using this one, but the sharp edge at the end kind of left some marks that I didn't like. So for actually making the runners larger, like these guys, and then for blending and smoothing everything out, I never knew that these were a thing. These are called cartridge sanding discs. Sanding cartridges? What the hell are these called? Cartridge and spiral roll abrasive. So once you've used those to kind of smooth everything out as much as you can, I kind of went nuts with the 120 grit sandpaper. I went through an entire sheet of this stuff, like this much at a time. My fingers still hurt from doing it the other day, just going in here and smoothing everything out, making her nice and smooth. And I have kind of I've done this one to death. It's still not perfect, but it doesn't need to be like perfect, amazing. It just needs to be nice and smooth, the right shape, no weird irregularities. So what a lot of people do out of caution is they cover the surrounding area with thick tape so that if you accidentally skip with the tool, you don't damage this surface. So what I'm going to do to try and get some usage out of this porting template is I added this hole right here, and this is not the correct size for any port. It is well oversized, and it's kind of rough if you actually really look at it. The only reason for this hole, me making this, is so that I can put this on here while I am doing the first stage of the porting, the scary part, up against the face here. And if I slip or make a mistake, God forbid, I haven't done it yet, but if I do, the damage is going to be really minimal because we have actual like steel covering like just directly around the port. So I'm going to keep this on while I am removing this material, just in case I screw up, because I'm an idiot sometimes. So since this is doing some tin canning, I'm gonna clamp that down with something. Preferably something that's not going to get in my way. You can really tell when these are sharp and when they're not. This bit is still relatively sharp, and man, it chews away material quickly. When they get dull, they really start to slow down in comparison. So it's important to keep that in mind, that it's not always the same cutting speed. So basically, I'm just trying to hold the correct angle. I actually have a little thing over here that you can't see that I've set to the correct angle. The angle that I'm actually trying to cut, and every once in a while I'm making sure that I'm holding it at that angle, or a little bit shallower, because going shallow is okay. Going too deep, you're cutting out material that you're not supposed to. So you're not cutting it this way. You're cutting it like at a angle like that. I mean, you can see how I'm cutting it. You see how the tool is. We're not straight up and down. If we did this all the way to the bottom, straight up and down, we would blow through into where the coolant lives, and that is not what you want. Check our angle, check the angle of the dangle. This is the thing that I have sitting across the table at the same angle that I'm cutting it at, so I'm making sure that I'm holding it roughly at that same angle. I don't even know what it is. I think it's... well, this thing will tell me exactly what it is, if I knew how to read it. You gotta keep this stuff lubed, but the more oil you add, the harder it is to see what the hell is going on whenever little metal flakes start getting into it. There's just like a black metal paste on top of everything, and you can't see the lines anymore. And you need to see those. There we go. We are about 2 millimeters in a lot of places from where the line is. So we are seriously slowing ourselves down, taking our time, making sure we know what we're doing. Okay, so screwed anything up yet, thankfully. Can you see better now? I haven't done this yet. This is at, it's at like a 60-degree angle. It's not quite at a 45. It's kind of sharper, but it's also not vertical. Over here, I have not gone past the line so far. And I have a little bit of a confession to make. On the other side, I accidentally went over by probably, like, I have no idea, maybe a millimeter at most. And I freaked out as soon as I saw that I did that. What I did, it was a learning experience, is I had it getting pretty damn close, similar to how I have it now. And then I went to take off a little shave, and I accidentally had the tool too shallow, too close to flat versus too close to straight up and down. And what that did is it removed material right at this edge. And when you remove material from an edge versus a flat area, it takes a lot of material off really fast. So I literally just went, and then went to check, and I was like, no! But it ended up not being that big of a deal, because there is, I mean, it was such a small extra little bit. All I did is I progressed the front of the port a millimeter ahead, so instead of having a weird bump, I just took the whole front part of it forwards. So we're going to match that on this port. And it does not matter that the primaries and secondaries match. What matters is that sorry, let me restart that. It doesn't matter that the primary and the secondary for the same rotor are the same, but it matters that it's the same amount of air total getting to each rotor. So if both of our primaries are a little bit big, that's totally fine. They're actually going to be a tiny bit bigger than our secondaries, which is a little bit odd, but like, we're talking an amount that really doesn't matter. So there's my confession. I actually did make a mistake on the real one. It was pretty minor, but man, I had a mini heart attack whenever I noticed that I did that. But it cleaned up okay. So we're going to do the exact same thing on this one. I'm gonna go above, so I don't know if you can tell where the original, so this scribe was CNC'd by Adam, so you can actually kind of still see where the CNC marks are. So we need to go past this by, like, I don't know, a millimeter, and then it will match the other, the port that's on the other side of this iron, the center iron. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a break, because we're at the point where it's the most crucial, and I am the most tired and worn out. So I'm going to take a break and come back to this when I have fresh patience. It's blendy time. Alright, here's where we're at. I just cut that, and it is looking pretty good. Pretty nice and consistent distance from where my scribe cut was done. And like I mentioned, this is actually a millimeter progressed from the actual template because I'm a ding-dong and I screwed up the other side, so we're making both of them equal. And I have a bunch more smoothing to do. So blending is the process of taking this angled bit, which is the first part you do, and the runner, which is the second part you do, and blending them together so that they form one nice cohesive thingamajiggy. So I've got a little bit more time with the carbide burrs, and then I think we're going to move on to the sandpaper spiral roll things. And we're getting pretty close to this one being done. I gotta say, I really like these. These are cool. They offer a really nice, even material removal. And it's fast, but not too fast. Kind of the perfect thing for this step. Alright, gang. So, I told myself that I was done of this port, and then I started critiquing the equality of one primary port to the other primary port, and the first one that I did had a little bit more initial angle on it. It was off by a couple of degrees, and I think that that is enough to potentially make a difference in the performance of one port versus another, because you want it to be a really nice, smooth, gradual ramp into the combustion chamber, which is going to be right here. And this is the one that I'm still working on. I have had this tool for a really long time, like probably 8 years or something like that. It's a contour gauge. I've never actually used it for anything until now. So I am using this to... So what this is a bunch of little sticks that are friction fitted into there, and you can push this on things and get the contour of it. So I forget exactly what all of these are. I believe that is the atom port. So the CNC work that he did is at an angle like that. I'm not going to quite such a harsh angle because I'm scared of breaking through, and the primaries don't need to necessarily match the secondaries, so it's a tiny difference, but my two primaries need to match one another. That is really important. So this is what I'm aiming for. And I don't have the profile on here of what this one used to be, but it doesn't matter. This is what we're aiming for. So I took that angle that I captured with this, and then I transferred it onto my angle tool thing here. Angle gauge. And I'm constantly... So here's the angle that I'm... Here's where I'm trying to make the angle exist. And there's the angle that I'm trying to make it go to. So I'm constantly, religiously checking this angle against that thing. That's not a very good shot. Let me see if I can... What I'm constantly checking to make sure, okay, yeah, that lines up, we're still good. Because if I accidentally go like that, and I start going at it, what we're going to do, since this is pretty much already done, and this edge right here, this crucial edge, is already there. If we accidentally bite into that, that's a big deal, and I will scream. So to avoid me screaming, I have put some Sharpie on top of it, and I'm making sure not to touch that, and again, religiously checking the angle, making sure I'm not accidentally going too shallow again, and just digging down this middle part so that this angle matches what my contour gauge tells me the angle is on the other side. Sorry. Alright, I am sick right now. I made it like a year and a half without getting sick, but I'm sick right now. And I really need to be in my top mental game, my top mental performance for doing this porting. And I really don't want to screw up this blending. So I'm going to wait until I feel better before I touch that again. But in the meantime, something a little bit less scary is I'm using JB Weld, as you see here, to fill in these pits. I don't know if this is 100% necessary, but I feel like it's not a bad idea, because some of these pits are pretty considerable. A little bit annoying that these plates have that pitting, but it is what it is. So let me show you an example of what that looks like once it's done. So my approach is to put the JB Weld on and then wait about 3 hours or so, and then go over it with a razor blade and scrape it flat. So here you can see the pits are filled in with JB Weld. That's just a little bit of tape. I had tape on here so that I wouldn't accidentally get JB Weld where it wasn't supposed to go. And here, here I accidentally let it set for too long. You don't want to let it set all the way, and you also don't want to scrape it off immediately in order for it to stay in there. So I need to go over this spot. I'll probably do that like right now. But the rest of this, so if you let it set for too long, what you can do is you can heat it up with a heat gun, and that'll make it softer, and then you can go over it with a razor blade and it won't chip out. if that makes any sense at all. When I was going over it with the razor blade, it was kind of cracking and chipping out whenever it was too cured / too cold. So once I heated it up, it stopped doing that, and it was actually cutting and leaving a nice flat surface for our coolant seals to rest on. So like right there, that was a pretty bad pit. Now it's more flat than it was. So in order to not get JB Weld all over the place, I'm using a syringe. And I've never actually got this type of JB Weld before, but it's in one of these epoxy tubes where it automatically dispenses the correct amount of each side, which is really cool. I know probably people are used to those, but I'm not. I'm used to mixing it by eye and never getting it quite right. So I'm filling up a syringe and just very carefully going over the areas that are particularly pitted. I'm not worried about stuff like that. Like, I'm sure that will, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I will go over that. Yeah. It's annoying that these have that pitting, but it is what it is. They're not new. They are refurbished. Alright, I'm feeling a little bit better, and I want to get back to working on some of this porting. So, we are done of the center iron. Look at that guy. Look at those nice smooth runners. I'm happy with how equal this one is versus the other one. And now I'm moving on to smoothing out the ones that were partially CNC'd. So I don't know if I properly explained why. Only 2 of these are CNC'd, only the secondaries are CNC'd, and then these ones were only scribed. It's because I wanted to learn how to do my own porting and save a little bit of money. That's the full reason. So I could have paid to have those CNC'd as well, but I wanted to learn this scary process. And am I regretting that? At times I feel like I am, but no. I'm enjoying learning how to do this because it's tough and it feels good when you do it right. I hope I've done it right. So, what we're doing is we don't have to worry about making the shape like we did over there, which is really the difficult part, where you have to hold very precise angles very carefully. This is a little bit more lax. What that started out as is this. So see, this transition is not really a transition at all. It's very, not smooth. So my job is to smooth this out so that air can go in to my combustion chamber nice and easy like. So one thing that I've noticed that I'm struggling with, I'm here to share my successes with you as well as my failures. And this is something that is kind of annoying me, and I'll tell you why. So, on both of these, I have accidentally nicked a tiny little bit. You can hardly see it. You guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but I'm really annoyed at myself for... There is a nick, like right there, where it is technically over the line. You're not supposed to remove material from this at all. And during the smoothing step, so not when I was using the carbide burrs, but whenever I was using the sandpaper roll, whenever I was trying to get in here nice and deep and get this nice and smooth, I accidentally nicked this. There, you can kind of see it a little bit better. It's not going to be a problem. I'm just annoyed at myself, so let's make sure that we don't do that moving forwards, especially because I'm starting out on the smoothing step. So, in addition to having the porting template with this oversized port on top of it to save my running surface from getting scratched accidentally, I have also added a layer of Gorilla Tape right on these edges because I don't want to remove any material from these. So let's cover them up with tape. You can see that I've already accidentally gotten a little close to the tape a couple times. I might take this stuff off and re-tape it just to be safe because I have a bunch more smoothing that I need to do. But this is coming along really nice. You can see where my work is blending into the lines that were left from the CNC. So when I'm done with this, it should hopefully look pretty similar to that. Alright, now to jump to something completely different again. We got our headers in the mail. I probably could have made this in a less expensive way, because like I can weld and I can pie cut, but this is kind of a very thick, very specifically shaped thing, and I feel like I'm doing enough labor on this already. So I just bought a header with a collector on it from Racing Beat. And one thing that wasn't quite what I expected, although it doesn't actually say that this is supposed to be 2.5 inch. This only goes to a 2-inch pipe, and I plan on doing a 2.5 inch exhaust for the entire thing for there to be enough exhaust flow for the power goals that I'm aiming for, which is like 250 horsepower. Should be pretty sweet, but we're not probably going to be able to do that with a 2-inch pipe. This is kind of a silly arrangement. Why have these nice big chunky 2-inch? So these are 2-inch pipes, but it's per rotor. So you have all this air, and then it's coming together into another 2-inch pipe. So you're kind of creating a huge choke point right here, which is kind of silly. So what I think I'm going to do, I mean, I'm going to be welding this anyway, so this really isn't that big of a deal. It's just going to be a little bit more fabrication than I was imagining. That's kind of the theme of this entire build. So I'm going to take a 2.5 inch pipe and slip it over this and figure out where it ends up, and I'm probably going to oval it a little bit to conform to this, and we're going to make it collect at 2.5 inches. So we'll figure out where that goes, we'll chop it off, we'll weld her up, bing bada boom, we'll make it work. And we also got our intake manifold in the mail at the same time, and it has a similar thing where it's like, oh, I didn't quite expect that, but we can make it work. So here it is. Man, look at it gleaming in the sunshine. Racing Beat 4-port 13B intake manifold. So here's what I wasn't expecting. Take a look at these primary port holes. Notice, just kind of get a feel for what this shape is. And then look at our actual primaries. These are really, really tall compared to what this has got. So so this is for a 74 to 78 13B, which is essentially what I'm building. But I'm learning right now that since I'm using 12A center irons, they have taller primaries. So I did some dirty finger templating on this piece of paper real quick just to get a clue of what I'm looking at here. So here's the 12A ones. Here's what the intake manifold has. And I think we're going to be able to port this out to make it the right size. So this is because I'm Frankensteining an engine. This is because I'm taking different components and slapping them together. So this is the closest intake manifold that exists for the setup that I'm making. But my primaries are going to be extra tall, which I guess is a good thing. I guess it's going to be more air, which is what you want for a naturally aspirated build. But it means that I'm going to have to carve out more material. Man, I'm already feeling like, holy crap, I'm doing a lot of porting and removing of material. Well, here you go, Giles. Here's even more. So if we take this and we put it next to it, let me fold this over. So we're going to be removing, it's like, I'm going to roughly guess like a centimeter up and a centimeter down. That is quite a bit of material, although this casting is a thick boy, and we definitely have enough room to remove, so there's plenty of material that we can remove. On that side and on the other side, it's equally thick. I was feeling it, just pinching it with my fingers. There's quite a bit of room there as well, so I think we're going to be able to make it work. And thank God this is aluminum. It'll be a lot easier to remove material from this than what I'm used to on these steel irons. So this should be pretty soft, and hopefully it won't be that bad to core these out. Oh God, there's so much aluminum everywhere. It's coming along pretty good. I was right. This being aluminum is making it a lot easier, but holy aluminum. So that's where we're going to on the bottom. I'm almost home with that. And on the top we are taking off even more material, so it's not quite even. we're going to about there. So it's going to get a little bit thin, but it'll be totally fine. So it's pretty lucky that that worked out, that this has enough material for me to make this the 12A size and not the 13B size. Still not totally sure why they come in different sizes, and the 12A has bigger ones than the 13B, but Now we're talking, boys. Now we are talking. Alright, so we're continuing on with the porting of this thing. I already did a bunch of work with this extra long guy that I didn't record. I'm sure you've seen enough porting footage in this video. It's going to be long enough already. So, I got a lot more work done. We are a lot closer for this top piece here to conform to this. So we're trying to keep this thickness roughly and conform to this and meet up with this runner where it actually receives fuel from the carburetor. So this has been great. It's allowed me to progress a whole lot more because before it was just straight like that and now it actually curves up. But still, there is a very sharp angle. And I can't do anything about that with any of my rotary tools, including that thing. If I have it all the way angled from the bottom up like that, it still doesn't fix the problem at all. So I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna do. We're gonna put on our problem-solving caps and figure out a way to do this. Alright, so the whole hacksaw idea did work, but it wasn't better than just flossing it by holding a piece of sandpaper with each of my hands and going So we're just going to finish this off by hand. I've pretty much finished this one, so it's not that bad. You just kind of have to put some music on and go at it. So we're approaching this being done. Also, I Sharpied in the thing that says Racing Beat, so now it looks cool. Alright, it is a couple of days later. We've put a couple more sessions into this thing with the sandpaper, just giving it the flossing action, and it is nice and smooth back there. So, taking a step back, I wanted to include all of the engine porting in this video, but there's been a bit of a setback such that I'm going to show you all of the porting that I've showed you so far, and we'll maybe do a little bit more porting in the next video. The holdup is the exhaust ports. So, the exhaust ports were supposed to be figured out by so long story short, I bought 2 housings from a guy in Calgary that runs a rotary machine shop. And one of them came damaged, so I shipped it back. And then I got talking with the guy a little bit more, and he said, hey, I can do some CNC porting for you. And I said, sweet. Why don't you do my one exhaust port, and then you can send the housing back to me, and I'll copy that exhaust port onto the other housing that I currently have. And that was a great idea until he unfortunately forgot to actually do the CNC work. So there were 2 jobs for the CNC on the one housing he was shipping back to me. He did one of them, but didn't do the other one. So that's pretty frustrating. I emailed him, and like I paid for it. I emailed him, and I was like, hey, like, what's going on? And he was like, yeah, looks like I actually forgot. I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry. But sorry doesn't get my exhaust ported, man. I'm still pretty disappointed and frustrated with that. So now so neither of them are ported. That's not the end of the world. I was going to do one of them myself. It's not the end of the world that I have to do 2 of them now. But what does suck is I didn't have a template sorted out. The template, the shape, was going to be figured out by him doing it with the CNC, and then I would trace it. But now I have no idea what shape to make them. So I've ordered a template from Pineapple Racing. So same guys that sent me this. And I ordered it from Pineapple Racing like 2 weeks ago, and they have not shipped it. They have not emailed me anything about it. I have sent them multiple emails and called them multiple times. I cannot get a hold of them. So, it's so frustrating. It's like the world does not want me to have my housings complete. Originally, the GSL SE housings were messed up, so then I bought 2 brand new ones, and then one of them showed up damaged, and I sent it back, and I said, yeah, do some CNC work on it, and then he sent it back, and forgot one of the 2 jobs, and now I need a template, so I ordered the template, and the place isn't messaging me back for 2 weeks. It's like... But it's fine. We'll just do the exhaust porting whenever Pineapple Racing decides to message me back about the thing that I purchased from them. So, now that we have a little bit of extra time, since I'm not going to be recording that, I want to give you a little sneak peek as to what we're going to talk about in the next video. I have been a busy little boy working on all of the other parts of the engine. You never realize how many parts there are to an engine until you have to completely strip all of the rust off of them and paint them. That really makes you realize how many bits there are. So, there's my water pump. This thing was absolutely disgusting. Like, all of this stuff was just completely rusty. And I have stripped all of the rust off, painted it all with engine paint, and hopefully this coat of paint will last a nice long time. I've also been hot bluing things. I'm going to talk about that in the next video. So, like, there's some rusty screws, there's some blued screws. It's incredibly easy to do that. And again, we'll talk about it in the next vid. And... oh baby, we got 2 of our irons painted. 2 of the 3 irons have been painted. So I did not want to paint these until the port work was done, because in order to port them, you're like moving this around the table a whole bunch, and just, I want to reduce the chance of hanger rash. At least that's what we call it in the RC plane world. Damage just from things getting moved around. So... these are now painted. I had this dream that I was going to assemble the engine and then paint it all as one to avoid having to mask off so many things, because I hate masking things off, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and it takes me forever to get it done. So I was going to play around with the idea of putting the 3 irons all together and having them kind of mask off the running surface. But long story short, that didn't work out. Thing is £1,000,000. The dowels are too long for the 3 stack to actually work properly. So I spent like probably an hour and a half to 2 hours masking these things off yesterday. So much masking tape, but it's kind of the right way to do it. So I haven't even taken the masking tape off these bad boys yet. So very excited to start painting these core engine components. This is like the exciting stuff. So these are almost like completely done, ready for stacking. And with that, that is all that I got for you this time. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.